Hello, hello. So today we're going to be covering how to set up your tattoo station, also how to tear it down. Clean gloves are going to be of the utmost importance when you're setting up and when you're tearing down. First, I'm going to start with my clean gloves. A little bit of a tighter glove, just so that way that extra fabric does not get in the way. Now that we have our gloves on, I'm going to be looking at our tray table here. So it's already cleaned, it's already sterilized. We'll go over sterilization when we're breaking down everything, but let's talk about setting it up. So some people use cling wrap and they'll spray a little bit of alcohol on there, let it wrap around so that way it doesn't slide around or move. I like to just use a trash bag. So I just get black ones just so that way it's a little less messy looking. Now that you have your trash bags, I'm going to go on to paper towels. So I normally try to rip as many paper towels that I'm going to be using. So normally within an hour, I use about 3. After I have my towels, I'm actually going to rip them into fourths. Boom. It's also important to remember you don't want to take them off of the tray table when we're breaking down and save them. Whatever is put onto your tray is now disposable, going in the trash, never can be reused. Next, we have our green soap here. So you don't want to ever just set it directly onto the tray table. Even though it's plastic and you can wipe it down, you still want to put a protective layer. So you're going to have a bottle bag here. When you're filling up your green soap, it's super important to make sure that the ratio is on. You never want to use tap water or anything like that because there can be different chemicals and bacteria that can definitely cause an infection or an irritation. I'll fill it up about 1/6 of the way, and then one trick that I have learned is if you actually fill it up on its side, kind of like that, it won't bubble up and get everywhere. Let's talk about our machines. So everybody's a little different. If you're using a coil, if you're using a rotary, if you're going to be using a battery pack, it's going to depend on what that is, but we want to make sure it's fully wrapped. I normally use a battery pack. With that, it kind of looks just like this. Cord wrap and machine wrap for my rotary machine. And all you do is you just slide it in there. Sometimes it's a little tighter for the battery, so you want to make sure that you're getting the correct size for your machine. And what I'll do from there is I actually just bend it over. I grab my grip tape. And I'm just going to take a little chunk of that off. Hold it and then just wrap it around. I go pretty tight with the first wrap. Some people use tape. I honestly just go straight in with grip tape. Makes no difference. And then I'll put a nice cushion for however much I like for my fingers. Some people like a little bit more. I'm not too picky. And we have our machine wrapped and ready to go. So let's say you're not working off a battery, you have a longer client, you're going to be working off of a standard unit. What you're going to be doing there is there's going to be 2 cords coming out. I normally don't wrap the power cord, but what I do is I take one of these bottle bags and fit it over. And then I'll actually take the wrap that goes to my machine and I'll use that full cord wrap instead of trimming it there. I would just leave the whole thing and then loop it all the way through. So that way, anytime you're working around your client and you're touching stuff, that cord could be touching you or whatever. It's all going to be disinfected, cleaned, wrapped, and you're good to go. Now that we have everything wrapped and ready to go, next we're going to be putting on our glide balm, our stencil stuff, and our needles. I like to use a clean tongue press. And the reason why I like these guys because they're easy to glide. What you can do is we'll have our tattoo glide balm. Just take a little chunk, however much you think you need. You really don't need much of this stuff. I like to actually spread it onto my table. Another thing that I like to put on my tray table setup is just an alcohol wipe. The reason being is sometimes that stencil is a little bit stubborn, especially when doing those fine lines. I want to be able to pull that stencil off and see exactly where I went with my first pass, how saturated it is, and just making sure that I'm going to be able to go over that line with ease and there's no confusion on where my line is and where the stencil is. Next, we're going to snag our ink cup right here. And all I do is I actually just take a little bit of that balm and stick it directly onto that tongue press. So that way it doesn't move. If you end up moving the bag or anything like that, your ink is going to pour over on you. Throw a little bit of our stencil stuff. So whatever brand you prefer, I like Dynamic. And just a little pile there. I always like to put a little bit extra, and the reason being is because sometimes you have to take the stencil off, so it's nice to not have to re-glove up, get more stencil stuff, all that good stuff. So just put a little bit extra on there. From there, whatever ink that you're deciding to use, or put more ink cups if you're going to be using a wide variety of colors or dilutions as well. Put those on there, fill them up as you need. Make sure you are gloved. Snag your needles. So pick whatever needles you're needing for your tattoo. It really depends on design and style, but go ahead and just toss those on there. I'm not too picky about it. Some people like to tape theirs down. Totally up to you. One thing we don't want to forget to put on our tray tables is also going to be our razors. So make sure these are always disposable, you're not reusing. I like these guys because they come in their own individual packaging, so you can just pop them right out. Just set it right there. I just use my green soap as a little bit of that lather on wherever I'm deciding to shave. Next steps, when you're all done with your tattoo, is tearing down. So remember, we're wanting to disinfect, wear clean gloves. Those are the two things that you're going to want to be looking for, is going to be gloves and what are you touching. So let's say all of this is dirty. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lift up my trash bag right here, take out my needle cartridges. What I do from there is I actually grab those dirty needle cartridges and bring them over to my needle bin. So you want to have a designated needle bin, and that is actually going to look like one of these guys. I like the bigger ones that have closing right there, so that way if you don't have time to drop them off right away, because you do have to drop these off at a specialty facility, just Google one near you. Sometimes your pharmacy will even take it, so just check on that. Make sure that you are disposing of these in the responsible way. We do not want these going in the trash and having the trash dudes go out and sort them and somebody getting sticked and pricked with a dirty needle. Now that we have thrown away our needles, we're going to look at the rest of our tray tables. Everything is going to be disposed of. So let's look at our machine. What I do is I will actually take my thumb, push that outwards, and slide that machine onto a clean table. So I actually lift up my trash bag, slide that onto my tray table, and put this over into my trash bag where I will be disposing of all of my other things. From there, I'm going to be taking my gloves off. So I'm going to be actually pulling that little corner, hook in and out. And then same thing with my clean pinky, pulling that out. So now we have everything that we're going to be throwing away. I will then pull out that bottle bag. I'll be holding it with the bottom of my trash bag, put that onto the clean area, go around, scoop everything into that trash bag, and then toss everything in here. Now that you've disposed of all of your disposable items that we will not be reusing, we're gonna re-glove with clean gloves to then disinfect our area. Once you are gloved up with clean gloves, we're gonna be grabbing our medical disinfectant. It absolutely has to be medical disinfectant. You cannot use something like alcohol to disinfect your things. It's not going to kill all of the germs. And one thing you want to look at, no matter what brand you do use, I do use Cabby, you want to look at the kill time. So you want to be careful of the kill time, make sure that you're timing that out and that your surface is wet that entire time. Now that I've pulled out a couple of my disinfectant wipes, I want to be very cautious and aware that it's one wipe per item. So it's going to be one wipe for my trolley, one wipe for my bottle, and one wipe for my machine. Now, if you do have an armrest, what I do is I actually put a trash bag over that, helps it keep it protected. Do the same thing, pinky hook at the end, toss that away, and then you're going to take an additional wipe just for that armrest. You never want to be reusing wipes. You want to be very cautious that your area is wet the entire time, so that way it is killing and disinfecting everything along the way. It's also very important to make sure that you are taking apart your machine. Every machine is a little different, and making sure that you are disinfecting or autoclaving all of your material. One tip, especially with Cavicide, you want to make sure that you're wearing gloves every time. These ingredients can cause cancer and be extremely harmful to your body. It's important to remember that everything that you are touching your body does absorb as well. Now that everything is being disinfected, it is wet, we are waiting that 3 to 5 minutes, just depends on what time your product requires. From there, you are all good to go. Throw away those gloves, and then we're going to repeat the process to set up for our next client.